The Artemis program is the most exciting part of the 2020s. Gonna level with you. From the 2120s, that's the thing we remember. It's the headline of the decade. So, why is it so exciting? Artemis is moon. Weekend has moon? Artemis, yes. Artemis's brother program was the Apollo program, which you may recall was the first great step for humankind into the stars. And Artemis, coming about half a century later, is the next big step toward the stars. Into sky. Human go sky, live moon. Then Mars, maybe more galaxy even. Yes. Good things, big steps. What is it? Accordingly to its bigness, Artemis is a bunch of different things. It's not just one rocket. It's not even just one line of rockets, because lots of companies are involved. SpaceX is involved. Boeing is involved. Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, the European Space Agency, whatever Canada does in space, and of course NASA, the crown unifier of all this exciting activity. What are they doing? They're sending missions to the moon with the intent to, by the end of the 2020s, set up a base on the South Lunar Pole, the Artemis Lunar Outpost. Pretty exciting, because that will become one of those things that everyone forgets even exists, like Arctic research stations or the International Space Station. And actually the ISS has been a really important stepping stone toward the Artemis program, and it's inspired one of the first key elements of Artemis, which is called the Gateway system. Gateway, as of the early 2020s, was going to be a key step along the landing route toward the lunar surface, but in 2021 I believe they changed their mind about that, and it's now optional, but it will be basically an orbital space station with the potential for docking. Science you can do from up there, looking at the moon, visiting it or leaving it on its own. It's got two main components, a PPE and a halo. The PPE is propulsion and power, it's stuff like that, and the halo is the habitable module. And these two together form Gateway, which can interface with Orion, which is a modular spacecraft that goes on top of the SLS, which is a heavy booster, and can also interface with the Human Landing System. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff, which will be built by SpaceX for a landing around the middle of the 20s. Rough timeline is early 20s, as in maybe even the year you're watching this, if you're all the way back in the cloudy days of 2022. The first launch practice of the SLS and Orion, just to sort of see if everything works or if things blow up. Then following on from this, there will be a bunch of CubeSats launched, like a dozen or more, like 13, 19, whole bunch of CubeSats sending up to just kind of check out the area. Then you'll be launching rovers and landers. There's one called Viper that NASA thinks maybe circa 23 they can get up there, and that rover's going to just bump around the lunar south pole and kind of investigate potential water sources and, test out how fungible the soil is, and just kind of get a read of the room, which is important because, of course, you're going to ultimately send humans to there. And humans are very delicate little flowers. Just a little bit of fire and they can burn, or not enough air and they'll shrivel all up. So to keep them fluffy, NASA's working on a habitat for the lunar South Pole, and a mobile habitat, which is especially exciting, like an RV for the moon, which would be a pressurized vehicle in which you could doff your spacesuit and just be okay. Then there's also a non-pressurized rover planned, for which you would have to wear your spacesuit. They're developing new spacesuits for this program. They're called XEMUs, for extra vehicle motion, and these should be more flexible and support more jumping around and volleyball activities in low gravity. The ISS, by the way, has been majorly helpful. As I mentioned earlier, it was a stepping stone, and one of the ways in which it's been so key is that it's allowed us to do 20 years of research on very low gravity situations, like no gravity. And the moon has some gravity, but not all that much. So we need to know how human bodies are going to hold up, especially for the long run. Now, it won't be till later in the Artemis program that you get actual long-term human stays on the moon. The first, it will be a non-crewed visit. The second, NASA thinks might involve people, a crewed sort of flyby of the moon. Hi, we're coming back soon. Then they're looking at an orbital mission, which would take humans to the furthest point they've ever been, all the way around the moon, which is quite far and a good way to test out whether your deep space communications arrays are functional and whether your life support systems are crispy apple and keeping everybody floating happily. Then the big event, eventually you're going to send people on a visit to the lunar surface and back up via the human landing system, which can interface with Orion, so humans can go streaming out of one and into the other. Probably about 4 humans we're looking at. First woman on the lunar surface, they're hoping. First people of color. They're trying to bake some more boundaries here. Good for you, NASA. Expanding the way all humanity can envision themselves in this project and view it as a collective enterprise, which really at its heart, it always has been. Space is about our highest potential as a species and so much more. Good fun to be had. So if all goes to plan, it should be mid-20s, around 5-ish maybe. As of 2022, NASA's looking at 2025 as a possible landing time for humans on moon. Humans go moon, walk around, go back up to Orion, then come home. The human space launch system will be blasted up by SpaceX, then refueled, then interfaced with humans, then landed, then launched back off the moon, return humans to Orion. Orion will return to Earth. So everything's got to go pretty keenly in all the tests leading up to this for NASA to have the confidence to actually put real bodies in these machines. But if it does, when it does, you will get your next huge step toward the stars. And eventually it will be so regular as to be essentially boring. Good Lord, we got interrupted by an interstellar communication. But I think you get the gist. You're going back to the moon, you're going to stay, and it's going to feel pretty normal in a couple of decades' time. But we'll always look back as a historical marker. This is a big one. So congratulations, and pay attention to Artemis. We'll talk about it loads more. You can ask some questions if you'd like, and we'll address them specifically in future episodes of the future. Okay, happy space. Bye.